Check, check, check. Got audio? All right. Audio seems to be working. Says I'm live. And maybe. All right. Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 238. And I'll turn my phone down because I can't recall if I did do that. Cool. So phone goes over here. And the things we'll talk about in the order is the shadow box. If you've been following me on Twitter, I should center myself. I feel I'm actually centered but off centered because when there's the chat thing on the side, it feels weird because to get the video centered, I actually sit in an off centered position to the way it looks on the camera. But whatever, that's internal details. But I did get this shadow box. Actually, specifically, one of the staff members did, not me. But the shadow box has been built, and it's powered by a Raspberry Pi. This is an e-ink display, and kind of novel is even if you unplug it, e-ink still displays the same thing. So this is pretty cool. I will probably do some type of video on this, leaving links to it. If you follow me on Twitter, I posted the links. It's just a large e-ink display with a red and black option. So it's pretty cool. It's got a little Python script that reaches out to YouTube to figure out how many subscribers I had. I may use it for other things, but the short-term cool thing that using it for is just this. And boy, it just novel to me how the e-ink works and the way it looks. But I'll be having this maybe sit in the background behind me. I'm going to lay it down right now because I will knock it over and goof things up. Next, let's see here. I vote Tom gets a pie screen and live output turn YouTube stats to the API. Yeah, there's only so much you can do some of that. It's kind of, there's actually one of the limitations that I think, and I got to double check this, is it only tells you the first three digits and not the last three digits. It always puts 000 at the end. So currently it's at 202,000 subscribers, but even if it was at 202,000 and I'm at somewhere above that, it always just displays 202 until it's 203. I think that's a limitation of the way the API is, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong about all that. I will mention though, VoIP. Actually, I got to put the hat on. Get the. Yeah, there we go. VoIP.ms sent me a hat. So yes, we still like VoIP.ms, and I just want to give a shout out. They're one of the solutions in our stack that we provide. It's not the only VoIP service that we do, but we do VoIP.ms. But more importantly than a hat, which my son is excited about, my son actually wants this hat. I don't know if he's going to get it or not. I'm not a huge hat person, but my son likes hats. But I definitely love maple syrup. And I will give a thank you to my friends over at VoIP.ms for sending me maple syrup. And, if you didn't know, they're Canadian. So this is pure maple syrup from Canada, man. Canada's got great maple syrup. And then we have, I am La Pimenteri, La Pimenteri. I barely speak English. So they sent me hot sauce too. So this is also from VoIP. I just want to say thank you to VoIP.ms. I've talked about them before on the channel. I have a review of their services they offer. Yes, we still do. When you need basic SIP service, I think VoIP.ms is still a great choice. Easy enough to find links we have and affiliate links to get you deals and discounts on VoIP.ms services. But I like swag. I'm a big fan of when companies mail me swag. So I always like to give them a thank you. We tell them thank you, which I got to email them too. We only got this just the other day. I'm excited. The hot sauce is good. This is a coffee hot sauce. And as much as I like it, the maple syrup, we haven't opened it yet because I need something to put it on. But I'm going to make some Eggos or something tomorrow morning so I can have some pure maple syrup. All right, enough of that kind of stuff. What else do we have here? And no, you didn't miss much other than Tom talking about his love of maple syrup. Let's see. Self-hosted instance of individuals combining the API with the official one. Maybe. What else do we have in here? I'm about to be a hustler with this. I don't know how to wear hats. Are you supposed to bend the brim? I'm not sure how that works. This is a Tom don't know thing. Feels like the hat shouldn't be. You're supposed to do this, right? Make baseball thing. I don't know how hats work. So I don't usually wear hats. What brand maple syrup was it? You guys can read it. Nos, Nos, Cabanes. Nos Cabanes. Nos Cabanes. I don't know. They are French speaking. That area of Canada where they speak French. So, and I'm sorry, I can't off the top of my head remember what area that is, but it's the part where more people speak French than less. So, let's see. If you had to get rid of one, hot sauce or maple syrup. Oh, I don't eat that much maple syrup. That's why it's a delicacy, a treat. I actually don't eat a lot of sweets. I prefer savory foods and specifically hot sauce. So I'm way more of a hot sauce over maple syrup type person. So let's dive into, though, what are the topics today? So Tailscale. I may do a video directly on it. It's actually a really simple service. A lot of people have asked me about Tailscale, but I did cover it in brief of how it compares to Zero Tier, Quebec. Yes, probably Quebec. Actually, I think Mac Telecom Networks, Cody, I think you should at least know where they speak what languages. So I'm guessing. I don't know. Our cabins. Okay. See, that's cool. I can just use all of you as my brain trust on these things. So I don't have to know things. You just throw it out to the collective, and the collective has answers. So Nos Cabanes is our, and I could be saying that wrong. There's no one here to verbally properly articulate things, but yes, our cabins. So, oh, you don't speak any French, Cody? I don't either, so I can't really call you out on it. I just know you live in a country where there's a lot of people speaking French. Drop some likes, absolutely. Well, the brain trust may be wrong sometimes when you ask questions like this, but that's where you have to use your powers to discern the right answer from the collective and what they have stated. So it's not not that hard of a task. It's actually always better to crowdsource some of that information. Back to Tailscale. And one of the things I covered a little bit, and I started working on just an SD-WAN video, and I said, I get enough people asking about Tailscale, and it's a at least popular product that seems pretty well put together. So I test it out, because people who keep annoying me is probably a way to say it. Oh, it's awesome. It's secure. There's no way for people to get it. It solves. It's zero trust. They throw every buzzword in there, but not understand the fundamentals of how it works. One of the things that's interesting about the Tailscale system, or any of the other ones out there, is the control plane is where you're moving the attack surface to. And what started as an SD-WAN project, and this actually comes out of, someone had asked me about Total, TODYL, and I posted on Reddit to Dead Air asking how their security works. And there's another private forum I belong to where I asked the same question and got a slight answer. And it's one of those things that kind of annoy me about companies. And it's not to say that they're not secure, but I want to know how they secure things. But when I started diving into some of these SD-WAN topics, which is going to be a later video I do, the topic specifically about Tailscale and Zero Tier, how they work, I said, let's just do a video on these two to compare the products, as they have some strong similarities into their way they solve a problem. Their transport layers are different, but their functionality is extremely similar just by adding another wire adapter to get them all tied together. And yes, I am aware, and that's one of the reasons in that Tailscale versus Zero Tier video, I left a link to a Reddit post that talks about Headscale, and actually a long list of other projects people are working on. The problem is, as you start diving in all these projects, is whether or not they were done and put together in a cryptographically secure manner, and are put together in a way that you can trust the security. And this is going back to the things that aggravate me when I ask security questions from people recommending product. People like, oh, you really should try this product. I've been deploying it everywhere. Okay, how does it work? Well, Magic, sales guy, says it works. Well, what kind of security stack they using? Well, Magic, that's how the security guys say it works. I'm like, so no one's looked at the transport layer? No one's gone through vetting on this? And it's funny because we're just coming off the heels in the IT and MSP industry here of the Kaseya hack, which was devastating and terrible, and, brings up the question all the time of vetting vendors. And here we are, only a few weeks later of the same people complaining about the Kaseya hack are now trying some other product with no thoughts to its actual security, and then telling me, Tom, you really should review it. I'm like, well, I don't feel like contacting their sales department right now. I understand what it could offer, but the fact that they lack any public documentation for the total system is kind of a turnoff to me. Maybe they'll fix it. And, the vague answer I seen in a forum about how their security works, I mean, why not make that public facing? The ciphers you use, the security you use is not something that should be a secret. And so I don't necessarily understand why it is. But yeah. And the problem with SD-WAN in general, and why I want to do a video on it, is it's more of a buzzword. And it's what is the problem you're trying to solve? Is a lot of times when people say, I want an SD-WAN solution, I'll hit them up with, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And is there a better way to solve it? Because I talked about last week, if you keep adding solutions, you also at the same time can be increasing your threat service, because now you have more potential companies that are now involved that you have to manage that are all potential for your supply chain attack. And I pointed this out, and Tailscale does a nice job of saying things like, hey, we don't have the keys, so we can't intercept the traffic. And that's great. And I like that in concept. The downside is, of course, if someone takes over the Tailscale control plane, and this actually applies to zero tiers, well, I talked about this in a video, this increases that threat surface, and then now they can add nodes. Now, adding nodes should not be the end of your security, because whatever protocols those nodes are talking and services you're using across there should still have another layer of username, password, multi-factor authentication. All the other rules should apply, but it still allows them in. So you would just have to take that into consideration. It's not like a reason not to use them, so to speak. It's an awareness, and then you decide as a data point if that's something you need. Does the need for this particular product and solving it in the way that that product solves it worth the security risk of adding another vendor? And yes, sometimes that answer is yes. This is the argument I see all the time when people talk about, well, people shouldn't use some type of, remote management monitoring tool to manage these computers. I'm like, unfortunately, that's a fun armchair decision for you to make, but if you want to manage computers at scale, then you need some type of powerful tool that has high levels of privilege that allow you to manage computers at scale. Or you don't manage computers at scale and you isolate all the computers, and you have one technician on site for every grouping of computers with someone else to monitor them, and you just put people in places where you hope the people aren't the insider threat. It's not really a practical solution, and would put a huge burden of cost on all these small businesses if they had to internalize IT because there's a rule of no remote management tools. It's not a practical answer that scales. Let's see. Someone asked about KnowBe4. I looked at it. I didn't like it that much. I'm also mixed on some of the cybersecurity training stuff, on the overall efficacy of it. Like, is it that good? Is it? I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying when we've done some of these, KnowBe4 was one of them we didn't care for. I can't remember why. There was something when we evaluated them. We're not a huge fan of it. There's not any of them I'll put my name on and say, that's the one you should use. But some people really like it. So if you are among those people that like it, run with it. So hopefully that makes sense there. I don't know anything about Sophos firewalls. So if you like using them, knock yourself out. I get no reason to tell you not to use them. I don't use them. I don't plan on evaluating them. I know a few people that used to use them that tell me they like the other products such as Untangle better. So that's the feedback. And that's quite a few people have told me that. They like Untangle or pfSense better. I having not used it, and it's not anything on my list of things I plan to start using. Now, we did talk to some enterprise people that said they couldn't scale to some of their enterprise stuff, but that's a different topic altogether because you asked about a home user situation. Let's see. Yes, for those of you wondering, and I see a few people in the chat asking about this, I didn't watch the video, but I know Chris posted something about almost getting hacked or someone trying to scam him. I don't know the details behind it. I just seen him post about it on Twitter, and he posted it on YouTube. I didn't watch it. Maybe some of you did, but yeah, Chris from CrossTalk Solutions did post something along those lines. But yeah, that's all I really have for that particular on the Chris from Crosstalk. I have no insight into it. I just follow Chris on Twitter. I follow Chris on Twitter like maybe some of you do as well. Back to the SD-WAN. I will be diving into specifically though, because first is calling things SD-WAN. Zero Tier and Tailscale can call themselves SD-WAN because of the way they solve the solution. But there's another type of SD-WAN that I specifically want to cover, and that's where you bond different services together into a single channel, like multiple WAN connections. And by bonding together multiple connections like that, you can achieve some interesting things for failover. So I want to talk about that type of SD-WAN solution. And that's the thing is there's a couple different methodologies for it. It also is the confusion people have between failover and an SD-WAN solution. They're like, hey, I have two ISPs. Do they fail over seamlessly? Nah, this is where SD-WAN solution can help with seamless failover. But then there's a cost of the failover and the cost of implementing the SD-WAN solution. So I kind of want to do a video on that because it's kind of a lot to explain, and I'm going to be explaining it with a series of diagrams and chart type things. Not a whole PowerPoint presentation, but just to kind of show you where these things sit on the network, because this is going to be one of those reply videos, because sometimes when people contact us for a project, I don't think they understand exactly what they're looking for. And if I can show them the video and tell them, what are you looking for after you watch that video, we start to have a better discussion to make sure we're all on the same page to go forward with whatever project they want. So that's my kind of, Tailscale SD-WAN topic for today that I wanted to mention. Any chance of pfSense getting Sensi? I doubt it. I don't know of any project in the works to that. That's a question you can reach out and ask the Sensi people, but yeah, I don't know. Oh, someone said it was one of those net 30 orders. We get a lot of that stuff, people asking about that. One of the things we do for all of the things that occur, we do require payments up front, and we require payments in full with company before we engage with any type of large work. We don't do net 30s. We have some net 30 local clients, but remote clients are never net 30. Let's see. You mentioned a question of what's the problem you're trying to solve. Really, I've considered the issue seamless failover. What are some other cases you think are valid use cases? So seamless failover is one of them. I mean, that is an SD-WAN. The upside and downside, of course, is going to be the cost associated with that. So seamless failover, definitely we all want it, but you have to pay for it. So it's when you bond two connections together to create a singular stream that can tolerate a failover without dropping connections, that means your data has to go between you and some point in the cloud, some data center endpoint for the SD-WAN. So it takes the two different connections and bonds them together. That is where the money comes in, and there's a few different services out there to do it. I'm probably not gonna have time to evaluate them, but it's one of those making sure people understand it, because what usually people are looking for is a way to avoid the cost, or they're looking at a different SD-WAN solution because they're paying for one now, and they reach out to us going, can we just drop a pfSense in here and solve the SD-WAN problem with failover? No, that's not how it will work. And so it's going to be a little tricky, so to speak, but it comes down to what's the solution you're trying to do. Now, the other SD-WAN solution is the other one I mentioned when I say there's like two different common uses for the term SD-WAN. One is for the bonded connection, so there's no failover. The other is going to be, of course, like Tailscale and Zero Tier and other related products that kind of create a specialized VPN network with a bunch of devices, but not under your normal circumstances like a VPN is being created. Let's see. Firewalls of Sophos, Intercept X. Yeah, I know that the thing with Sophos, like their selling point that they claim, their marketing materials, not that I've validated any of this, is going to be the fact that they integrate directly with the Sophos product. I used to use Sophos like 20 years ago. They always had a cool Linux client way back then. I don't know what they have now. I thought it was a good product back then, but I haven't really kept up with it to tell you how great or not great of a product it is. So I don't know anything bad about it, but a few people have mentioned a few things, but like I said, that's a grain of salt and not directly from me as far as the overall quality of their firewalls. So try it out. Worst case is it doesn't work. Best case is it works awesome and you're really happy with it. Let's see. Hey, it's weird watching me at normal speed. I feel the same way. I watch me at 2x as well, because I watch everything at 2x because that's as fast as they will get going. Yeah, NetMaker's another one that was in the list when I did that other video for that Reddit. Just if you just go to the notes of the zero tier versus Tailscale video, and there's a Reddit link in there, that Reddit link in the notes is a huge link of a list of all the different solutions out there. Well, probably not all of them, but quite a few different ones. One of the things, though, back to holding people to caution, is when you're looking at all these solutions, is making sure that you go, hey, is this well vetted? Is it putting it together right? Is there any security implications of using this particular product in this particular way? It's not that there necessarily is, but it's something that I think people really need to start considering here, because lots of people have stood up products and not realized they're standing up insecure products with the assumption they were secure, and then find out the very, very hard way that they were not secure. William Brisden, thank you very much for the $5 donation. It's awesome seeing that, so much appreciated. Do you have any updated opinion on the TP-Link? Omada Hardware was planning on picking up a few of their routers for site-to-site VPNs between family homes. I have zero opinion on their VPN, but I think they're great home user products. I have no plans to deploy the TP-Link in business. All the testing seemed to go fine. I had it at my house for like a month, and it worked fine. I didn't run into issues with it, but there's nothing about it that was so compelling to make me want to switch from UniFi. So I don't see any problem using it as a product. If you want to go with it, awesome. But they don't seem to, they just copied UniFi is how I kind of feel about them. So I don't think it's a bad product necessarily, but I don't get the warm fuzzies exactly like how long they'll support a product for. And the history with some of the other products is like some of the weird firmware changes and they just swap things around. But if I'm going to deal with unpredictability, I may as well just stay with UniFi. That's kind of sometimes how I feel. And I don't know how good their VPN works with them at all. So whether or not the TP-Link has a good VPN, I didn't test that. Not something I planned on testing. What UPS brand? Whichever one we like. There's a couple brands. APC and what's the other one? Eaton. Eaton and APC are two popular ones. Oh, looking at Home Assistant. I've already got Home Assistant set up and connected. So that is, let me switch here. I'll pull that screen over. All right, so switching. Yeah, we've got Home Assistant set up. These are actually, so this is just one kitchen light that we have. There's not really a way I can show you. If I turn it on and off, you wouldn't notice it's over there behind this camera. This will turn off the entire live stream and everything, so we're not going to click that button there. So we haven't done much. We've only got two things on it right now. It's partly cloudy. It's 90 degrees here at the LTS office. Here's an unknown Tom. Why does it say unknown? Why am I unknown? Picture. I guess the picture's unknown. All right. I'll fix that later. But we're still setting up and playing with everything on there, mapping where things are. There's where it's got. That's not where I'm at. It's got the wrong. Can I drag it? Do we edit this? We'll drag it over to where we're at. This is where our office is. because it does offer geofencing features. Where are we at? There we are. Where's my building? And that's my building right there. This is where the studio is. It is right there. So now we can... All right, now it should be happy. But yeah, Home Assistant's pretty cool. I want to do some videos on this because we're going to keep diving deeper into this and doing some integration. So yes, I was excited about this. I like it. It's self-controlled. We are using Z-Wave in here. And I'll be breaking down the different options between Z-Wave and other solutions that you can do. Z-Wave is kind of cool, though, because it's really easy to set up and you don't require any weird firmware things. So, let's see. But yeah, that's the Home Assistant. It's weird the industry can't even decide what SD-WAN is. Well, that's why I know SD-WAN's a buzzword, because it just gets slapped on to lots of different things. So, yes. Triplite, yeah, we view Triplite's good. Cyber power, we've actually bought a lot of cyber powers for like under the desk for people who just need smaller ones. I've used a handful of those, never had a problem with them. UniFi has still been one of my favorite switches, so the UniFi switches work great, and we have a whole stack of UniFi ones back here. So, let's see, smaller dark side cyber power. Yep. Let's encrypt on Home Assistant. Can it support that? Yes, it actually has support. 4 certificates in there. I haven't set that up, as we'll probably just connect it through our proxy, but it does, as far as I know, have support for that. You went to the Detroit Zoo, and yes, that is relatively close to me. Detroit Zoo is about 45 minutes from my office. Network bandwidth monitor. You can use Zabbix. That's how we're managing network bandwidth. But well, besides pfSense itself, Zabbix does that. So, Lutron cassetta for your lights and sensors. You'll be happy. Lutron's one of the ones I was looking at. The question with the Lutron: does the Lutron have a Z-Wave? So that's the hardest part, is figuring out the Home Assistants, all the different options, and which ones are there. Yeah, I will be linking all the, I know I haven't set up any of the awareness things that are on there. We have Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi and not on a VM, and the reason why is because of the Z-Wave connector. I know there's a way you can connect the Z-Wave to it, but we said, if we just leave it on the Pi, that's simple enough. The Pi can actually just live here in the studio, and I have a little rack mount for the Pi. So this is 3D printed. If you type in rack mount for Pi, you'll find these. But this little rack mount Pi will go in here. And this is probably where the Raspberry Pi with the Z-Wave, because all the Z-Wave devices are going to be here in the studio to turn each individual light off, or different lights on and off in the studio. And matter of fact, I've got it tied to the camera system as well. So the camera comes on automatically and is ready to record as soon as I turn it on. So that's one of the reasons we just went with it. And we have Raspberry Pis. So it seems like a good use for it. Do you have many YouTube fans that stop by the office to say hi? On occasion. I'm busy doing stuff, so people, I don't stop people from saying hi, but if someone messages me or contacts us online to see if it's okay, and I know a time, because I'm also not here all the time. It does happen, and it's not a huge deal, but we can't just have people coming in and out all the time. So it's one of those, contact me ahead of time if you would like to stop by and say hi. For now, I'm not so famous that I have to lock it down or anything like that. Because I know some big YouTubers certainly have that problem, where everyone wanted to come by a studio. If you get as big as like MKBHD or Linus Tech Tips, they could fully run studio tours, but at some point they're like, we have work to do and everyone wants to come hang out, and that's cool. So yeah, maybe one day I'll be that big, but I'm far, far from it now. But I don't mind if people come by, but they have to, let me know ahead of time. The other problem with why YouTube randos is problems. I've got other friends who people figure out where they live and have showed up their houses thinking they can just kind of drop on by. And that's not cool. I have a few YouTube friends that has occurred, and they're like, no, you may not just randomly show up at my house. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's not, it's one of those things. It can happen. So yeah, I like, if you haven't, I've seen Pete Matheson's in here. Check out his YouTube channel if you haven't already. Pete's awesome. He's got some really good content he's been coming out with. He's a friend of mine, but he also was talking about using it on a QNAP and being able to do snapshots on there. So it's definitely some cool things you can do in there. Let's see. Yeah, the Pi makes a lot of sense. Not so simple. Yes. A Pi 3B Plus. Yeah, I do recommend a Raspberry Pi 4. And because that's actually, we got, older Pi stuff in here, but we used a Raspberry Pi 4 for the HomeKit. Recommendations for a 3D printer. We did a video. If you look at my channel, there's a video about 3D printers. I don't know anything about them. My staff does, and that's where we talked about which ones we use. I don't even know which ones they are, and all that information's in the other room because that's where the 3D printers are. But if you search my channel for 3D printers, you will find a video where we talk about the 3D printers we have here. Let's see. Concerned with the longevity of the device, the unified doorbell and getting hot. I don't know. I don't have a doorbell. I don't have any doorbells deployed anywhere outside. We just have them in our lab for testing. I don't put UniFi much on the houses, and I don't know. I know some people do, and they seem to like it. So I just don't have an answer on that one there. Ender 3, that's one. I know we have one of the Ender models. I don't know. Probably it is an Ender 3, so I know that's very familiar. I think that's what's written on one of the ones in the other room. My staff likes 3D printing stuff. Is there a product to allow inbound connections over Starlink? There's a couple of things I want to work on, and let's do this. One of them is going to be, and I'll throw this tool out here. But there's different ways to achieve this. And this is one of them that's just really easy to do. And they have a free tier. And it's easy. You can create HTTP TCP tunnels on random URL ports. You can keep up to 4 one online tunnel, 4 tunnels, ngrok process, 40 connections, and they're signed up for free. No risk to try ngrok, free forever. This is just a really simple tool that does bridging. You download it, you connect your service, you access from anywhere. It's basically a tunneling service that you can use for free. So if you need to create some tunnels and you're behind carrier grade NAT, this is one of those options out there. So it's ngrok.com. But I also eventually want to do some videos on how to do this with other tools, like setting it up in like a hosted cloud environment where you bridge whatever services you're using locally and bridge them over to some type of cloud environment. Now, one of the real advantages of doing things like that is, one, it gets you around CGNAT problems. 2, even if you have a public IP address, maybe you want to do things. And matter of fact, I'm in this camp specifically. I would like to do things where I can relay things through a public IP address. That way I can show and have it connected to the public IP, but not show my public IP. And yeah, this is one of those simple tools if you're looking for something. It's funny because the way I found out about it was a popular tool used by hackers. And that's where ngrok gets banned a lot of places now, because they would use it to simply set up free reverse shells into companies. Just use ngrok. Why not? So that's one of them that's out there. You can do this with WireGuard, but WireGuard is going to require that you have WireGuard somewhere. So that comes back to setting up a cloud server where you would tie it to some type of cloud endpoint outside of public-facing WAN. So yeah, ngrok is great for development, and just it's actually who the target audience is: developers that just want to say, hey, here's something I'm running and I want to give access to it to someone, and it creates a specific URL for sharing without having to do special firewall rules or anything like that. So yeah, ngrok is pretty cool. Isn't the best practice for a proper network with IoT's HA by using VLANs? Sure. This is where things get a little fuzzy. If you're doing something like Z-Wave, which is one of the things we're trying on this, Z-Wave is its own network. It's not part of a Wi-Fi network. It's a Z-Wave network. There's a lot of advantages to using Z-Wave, especially the automatic meshing, the ease of use, and it has nothing to do with networking in terms of TCP/IP normal network stack. So it's not part of like a Wi-Fi SSID. So by going Z-Wave, the only thing you do is put Home Assistant wherever you want it to be. If you consider it an IoT device, then move it over to your IoT VLAN. It's a open source project that you can, built with a series of Docker images that run on well, in my case, a Raspberry Pi, but of course you can run this in a virtual machine like Pete mentioned earlier in the channel here. You can run it however you want. It's even a plugin for TrueNAS. So do you trust that to talk to the other devices? Well, if it's talking through a Z-Wave device, where is your threat point? Now, if it's reaching out to other APIs to talk to other IoT devices that you have, and those IoT devices are untrusted or insecure devices, then yeah, then you may want to mount a separate VLAN. Oh, let's see. Any software out there that does load balancing? That's where SD-WAN comes in. SD-WAN will do load balancing between a multitude of connections and combine them together. This is not something that is done at the firewall level. This has to be an SD-WAN. If you have 3 providers providing you internet and you want to combine all those together, that is back to the SD-WAN topic. That's going to be how SD-WAN will bind those together. But that is not free. That is a recurring cost, because the way it does that is binding them together by landing them all at a data center somewhere. So you take 3 different connections and it can land them at a data center. But yeah. How far does Z-Wave go? I don't know. That's a good Google search. Pretty far. That's actually one advantage of Z-Wave. It goes quite far. Yes, using a Linode server, a Linode WireGuard server pointed at a local Nginx proxy, that's another way to relay it. That's the thing. There's a few different ways to do this. You can even you're basically building tunnels from inside your network to something public facing. That can be something you set up manually or something that you buy as a service like ngrok. So let's see. Have you had an experience with Stardesk or Tenzig software to convert legacy PC hardware into thin clients for remote computing? Nope. Never tried it. I need to test this out because we are a reseller for Untangled firewalls, but we've never used their SD-WAN product. It's on my to-do list. I get a free license for it. I just haven't really taken the time to set up the SD-WAN that they offer. So that is on my list to test the SD-WAN offering that Untangle has that will bind connections together and everything else. So can you give us an extra short review of the SG2100 versus 1100? I've done reviews on both of them. Netgate has an explainer. I don't know what you're missing on it. Yes, and Eric points out here, Z-Wave doesn't go super far, but the mesh so you can repeat throughout your house by placing devices to hop across the network. This is actually a cool feature. All the devices automatically start meshing and beaconing to each other. It helps Z-Wave work quite well, and it's one of the interesting features of it. It's naturally built in, so where you're having challenges with some of your Wi-Fi connectivity with your IoT devices, Z-Wave kind of solves that problem by all the Z-Wave devices mesh with the other Z-Wave devices to relay the data across there. So do I have any opinions about FortiGate? If I have any opinions about FortiGate, then the FortiGate fanboys will come out after me, because they do. FortiGate has had a terrible track record of security. They're a large company. They do have an excellent reseller program. That is why they have such fans that will overlook any problems with the FortiGate firewalls. Their atrocious security is, as I've done, if you look for FortiGate on my YouTube channel, I have a video where I break down their CVEs. And hey, everybody big, especially big companies, have lots of CVEs because lots of eyes are on them. But when their CVEs are, whoops, we accidentally put a backdoor in our VPN because we made a coding mistake, and then whoops, we accidentally hard-coded some more keys in some products, whoops, we did this and did that. Those are not the typical ones. They weren't some really clever hack. They were some really stupid problems that show that they weren't running things very well. So I'm not the biggest fan of them. They've cleaned up the company a lot since then, which to my knowledge they have. I don't know. But I don't really use them. We've run into them in the past. I don't hate them, but I don't love them either. SD-WAN prices are all over the place, like anything in tech, because everyone has their own feeling of what they want to charge for it. I can't remember which company. There's a couple companies that offer. You got to find, because it's got to remember, they got to handle the bandwidth and everything. So I'll try and find, if I do the video, maybe I'll try and find one of them that has a reasonable cost on it. But a lot of times it's not just the SD-WAN product. It's having to buy all their hardware as well. They usually want to sell you the hardware to go with all the SD-WAN stuff. So it's not just like throw an SD-WAN solution on it. It's also like buy our hardware that has an SD-WAN. This is actually why Untangle offers it, because it's integrated directly into their product. As a Fortinet fan, from a usability perspective, those issues are atrocious. Yeah, accidentally dropping backdoors in your VPN is terrible. Don't expect Tom to do a Zigbee Z-Wave comparison. I think there's already a lot of that out there. It just comes down to competing protocols, and I don't know how deep I want to go down that rabbit hole. It is a deep dive rabbit hole indeed to start diving into. It's hard enough, and one of the challenges I already ran into, and one of the reasons I went Z-Wave, was I realized we've seen a couple of them like in the forums, and someone said these are really good, but I'm glad I kept reading further, because they were really good in 2020, and then 2021, or models made after a certain one, the firmware quit working with Home Assistant. So you have to then hunt down the old firmware and flash them to older firmware so they'll work. Like the Wi-Fi devices got to be a little bit challenging. The Z-Wave devices are a little bit less confusing to work with, because as long as they're Z-Wave compatible, they're Z-Wave compatible. But the Wi-Fi ones, yeah. The Zigbee, that's one of the reasons. So for the reading I have done, Z-Wave is 900 megahertz and Zigbee is 2.4. 900 passes through things a little better than 2.4, and 2.4 already has a pretty high level of congestion. Now 900 used to be congested because all the old landline phones that were cordless frequently worked at 900. Those aren't really a thing anymore. Z-Wave is licensed, Zigbee is open, so good and bad with both. Yeah. Yeah. Tom is into UniFi, and UniFi Wi-Fi does not work with IoT devices. That is just not true. we have people with IoT devices and UniFi all the time. So UniFi does indeed work with IoT devices, for what it's worth. Matter of fact, do you consider Chromecast an IoT device? That's working on it. Phones are technically IoT devices, so that's working on it. Google Chrome, the Google, what is the new one called? I have that at home connected to a UniFi device. So yeah, UniFi works with IoT devices. I haven't had any issues with it. I'm not saying you can't find something somewhere that doesn't, but that actually goes to insert name of any type of access point you may have problem with it. So IoT is a buzzword because it's whatever you want it to be. Home Assistant ties into UniFi per presence detection. Yeah. I seen that. It was kind of cool too. IoT equals cheap, unpatched cheap Linux computers. Sometimes that can include those, but where does Google fall on that? Like a Chromecast. Isn't that essentially some type of IoT device? So if you think that is Ecobee or Nest, if you have one of those two, or those are too big. Oh, Honeywell too. So you have Ecobee, Nest, and Honeywell. I guess those are IoT devices. You know, I think they are. So yes. Let's see. Oh, and do not mix Z-Wave and Z-Wave Plus. Yes. Well, the S in IoT stands for security, as we know. S in IoT stands for security. Yes, it's missing. There's no security in a lot of the IoT. Matter of fact, fun thing is, we'll look this up real quick. So it would be the Fox. See if I can find this. Oh, that's a 2021. 2021. Whoops, not 2010. 2021. This was kind of, if you're wanting to dive into this, Bishop Fox researcher Dan Pitro and Alan Cecil expose how nearly every IoT device with hardware random number generators contains a serious vulnerability, causing them to improperly generate random numbers, which undermines the security for any upstream use. And yeah, this is, it turns out, I've been watching all the DEF CON stuff, or DEF CON 29 stuff on YouTube. And yeah, you're doing IoT RNG wrong. And fun to dive into this if you're interested, but great security research. Bishop Fox is pretty awesome at doing this stuff, but yeah, they definitely found out that they were not generating enough entropy. So it's kind of a problem, and it's the way the system on a chip works. And it's kind of interesting. It's one of those works in concept, didn't work in production. And let me, if you didn't watch this, it's basically in concept. The IoT should use the random number generator and have enough entropy to generate enough random entropy to create secure cryptographic keys. But when you start querying it too many times, it's not able to keep up and provide the proper entropy. So it just starts repeating the same digits all the time. So it turns out it's not cryptographically secure. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do this weekend. So I didn't even get to watch all the videos yet, but that's, if you're wondering what I do in my spare time, I do watch YouTube, and I'll be watching some more DEF CON videos. So they, let's see. You want to start a WISP. I'm not going to make any WISP videos, or at least not likely I will. Limiting bandwidth, though, there's tools built in to do that. both in, you can do bandwidth limiting in pfSense, you can do bandwidth limiting in at the access point level and set those on there. DEF CON was last week, so yes, they have DEF CON this year, but it's already, it's a past tense. They had DEF CON 2021, so. Yeah, DEF CON's definitely interesting. Actually, I went, DEF CON was held remotely last year, but I was in person last year because I was at the Car Hacking Village for DEF CON 2020. That was referred to, or 2020, which would have been DEF CON 28. DEF CON Safe Mode is what they called it, so. Nonetheless, current project, headless Steam server. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Jeff from Craft Computing has done some fun videos on that topic. So he's definitely kind of become an expert on doing pass-through and setting up the headless gaming servers and things like that. So really cool. And easy enough to find Jeff from Craft Computing. He just did a couple of them on gaming on, I think, the NVIDIA Tesla cards. All right, what else was I going to cover? Synology. There is, just out of reach, and I realized it was too loud to have on for the live stream here. I have a Synology with all flash, and we're going to be setting up with a 25 gig storage target on here. We are building, they stopped beating on the wall before I started the live stream, the wall that is that way. We are putting another rack outside the studio so I can rack more servers that I can do videos on, because now that the studio is my office, I kind of need a place to put things that are a little bit too noisy and would degrade the sound quality in the studio. So we're going to move a few of these things, not everything, just a couple things are going to be moved over there, and then like the 25 gig demos I'm going to be doing, which does include the UniFi 25 gig switch back here, that will all be set up in there. I've been testing the UniFi 25 gig. I like the switch quite a bit. It works quite well. I don't have any complaints. And that's, before I did the review, I wanted to use it for a little while. Like, it's been on, it's been working, and that's the UniFi aggravation switch, as we call it. So we can pull that up if you're wondering. Make sure I'm logged in. Hey, I'm logged in. I'm on the right thing. We can share screens. That is the switch right here. And you can see, like, I turned the other ones off because of the noise, but it's connected at 25 gigs right there. Let's zoom in. Hey, look. I can make it bigger. 25 gigs connection. It's weird. So they changed it to dark green for 10 gig. And is that yellowish green to you? I don't know what it comes out on the screen here. That's now their 25 gig connection. So we have data transferring. I've been playing around with it and everything else. It works. I haven't had any problem. Matter of fact, side note, it's really quiet. One of the things I do like about it is it's a really quiet switch. It's quiet. The 25 gig is quieter than its friend here. Hold on. This one's noisy. This is the loudest switch in the stack. And even though I switched the fans out, it's still, we put some, I think they're Noctua fans we have in there, but yeah, it's still kind of there. There's my computer. Some of the other ones, the TrueNAS is plugged in, TrueNAS Mini. I don't know what that's, I should label these ports. Storage. Is it a VLAN? Yes, storage VLAN. All right, cool. That's in there. Actually, zoom this back out or I'll be annoyed when I go back to it. Like, why is everything so big? All right. Pea soup green. We can go with that. I've done videos on what to look for 10 gig. Get some of the Intel cards. They're DA520. Chelsea I are all right, but I've done videos talking about 10 gig. If you look for my 10 gig, I just did like a SFP video on it. I've done a few videos talking about that particular topic. But 10 gig cards are really cheap right now. You can matter of fact, they're A lot of them are dual for that, and the 25 gig cards aren't that expensive. The 25 gig, I bought some used cards. I might buy some new ones too, but the used 25 gig cards, yeah, they're just not a real expensive thing. So there's that. Oh yeah, if you have a PowerEdge, Dell PowerEdge server, it's going to be a lot louder. Are there any 10 gig I don't know about 4-port cards. I only see 10 gig 2-port cards that work in pfSense. There's probably some 4-port ones. I see them less often. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying that I'm not aware of them. Tom, you've been consistent with 4 p.m. Eastern is something you're planning and going to continue. Maybe. I say that because I almost did move this to 6 o'clock today, but I ended up meeting with the client yesterday. They thought originally they could only meet me Thursday at 4, so that's why I didn't even schedule this morning, because when I met with the client yesterday, when we did get it scheduled, it worked out. So I like to try to be consistent as much as I can, but life happens, and there are still some priorities where I have to occasionally go out and physically meet in person with people, and that causes things to get shuffled around. 6 p.m. EST sounds great, except for the fact that at some point I like to leave here. And 6 p.m. EST, I usually go for 2 hours. So if I started at 6, I'd be rolling into, I go to 1 to 2 hours when I do this, and from 6, I'd roll into 7. Sometimes I have things I have to go do. Okay, then, someone pointed out Netgate has a 4-port 10 gig card, which you can look at Netgate. I guess we could always go to store.netgate.com. I think that's where it is. Nope. It's not store. Is it shop? Shop. Let's all look together. What do they have on here? They have a 6100. That's exciting. Mount Kits expansion cards. There we go. There's your answer. It's the Netgate 7100 quad port SFP Plus installation kit. Based on the Intel. So it's the Intel base card. So yep, they have one. Brand new for $596. So that answers that question. We don't get a lot of people asking for 4-port 10 gigs. So for what it's worth. Is there a supported QSFP card? I didn't see, I didn't look hard, so I don't know. Let's see. I like 4, so I can join live. I'll still work at 6. Cool. Let's see. Anything else in here? Ridiculous margin, as you say. That's your opinion. Don't buy it from them. Usually we order things complete from them. Also, I talked about this before. I think I did it when I reviewed one of the higher end pfSenses recently. The multi-stream versus single stream bandwidth issues you run into. And this is one of the reasons their TNSR software exists. So the Tensor system is also a replacement for high-end routing applications when you need to go beyond 10 gig. pfSense can have some trouble with over 10 gig. So you have to start looking at solutions that are more manageable on that. And it's the problem lies inside the BSD kernel. That's where the challenges can lie. So if you need something that's over 10 gig, you may not be looking at pfSense for that particular piece of your routing. Hopefully that makes sense there. Go to Netgate's website. I don't need to pull it back up. I mean, if you can't find your website, I don't know the model. It said, it just said, I don't even know if it said, it called it 7100 card. It said it was Intel based, but maybe they have the full part number. I don't know. Just go to their website, find the right one. FreeBSD is full of layers. Sure. like an ogre in onions, FreeBSD has layers. All right. Does any other final questions? Because I am going to wind this down. Because as usual, for those of you that may have not known this, my son's going to start bugging me for pizza very shortly. He was actually already bugging me earlier. He wanted me to bring pizza after my live stream. Surprised he's not in the live stream asking for pizza. But it's actually kind of, well, it's a little hot, but it's kind of nice out. I'm going to actually work on my tan, do outside things or something. Actually, we had a few storms roll through, so there's lots of things to pick up around my yard. We rarely have anyone ask for hotspot solutions locally because we have 3 ISPs here. So whatever you want for a hotspot solution, Cradle Point's a really popular one out there. We have a lot of clients that just bought their own, so it's not really something we deal with as often. What are your comments on Windows 11? That Windows 11 is Windows 10 with some face polish on it, and fanboys get mad when I say that. I don't know why people are so defensive of some of the stuff on Windows 11. Matter of fact, we're already seeing that security flaws that are still being found in Windows 10 still affect Windows 11. It's not a rewrite. It's just like everything else. There's so much stuff that they've carried over for backwards compatibility that they keep finding flaws. It's like the printer nightmare, the gift that just keeps on giving. So, and those printer nightmare flaws are still in Windows 10 or Windows 11, even though it's not out yet officially. So there's nothing exciting to me about Windows 11. Yeah, there's going to be people who, and here's the thing, if you dive through the history, Microsoft has frequently overstated what their requirements are going to be, but then backed them out before release. My guess is maybe they're just seeing how much pushback they're going to get from people, so they are pushing these higher requirements. I don't know. So I don't really have an answer on it. There's nothing, I haven't run Windows. My clients will run Windows. That's still what they do. But my excitement level for it is really none. I think the only thing, of all the things I've read so far, there's one thing I like, and that's that they're only going to do one feature update a year. Thank you. Because the feature updates are kind of annoying when Microsoft decides to add something that's stupid. And here, let's force you to load all these updates and do a feature update that doesn't really do any great features and maybe even add some confusion to things. Just work on, we don't even need features. We don't even care as much. Just work on making the core thing better and more secure. That would make all of our jobs easier in IT. Make the updates not crash things. That would be great. Don't add Candy Crush back to the menu. Yeah, don't break things after updates. And anyone who says it doesn't break after updates, I'm like, apparently you don't manage them at scale like we do. Some people are like, well, I updated my computer and it works. Great. Try updating a few thousand of them and see if it works. It becomes a different adventure at that point. The solar flare one's any good? I don't know. Never used them. Don't add Candy Crush. Yeah, thanks Windows for putting Candy Crush on people's desktop or what. And I think it's Candy Crush you put on there, right? Agree to stop all the games they're crap. They're not even good games they're putting on there. So that's a whole nother issue. Just run Pop! OS, right? Yeah, bloatware. Microsoft just throwing it out there for us. So why would they put that on the systems? Also, Ian, very much thank you for the donation. And yes, it will buy me a good beverage. Thank you for the $10 donation. What do you need? We manage people's computers. So that's what we need thousands of computers for. is the Pi 4 okay for noise level? The Pi 4 doesn't make any noise unless you put fans on it that are noisy. Put a big heatsink on your Pi 4 and you don't necessarily need a fan. The video games were a big downvote. Yeah. Yeah, get one of those metal cases that dissipate the heat. That's another option to keep it quiet. So, what do I use for my daily usage? Pop OS I've been using the last couple years. So Pop OS is pretty much what I use at home and for all my daily stuff. Pop OS is great. I'm really happy with that one. I got reviews I've done on it and talked about it. Any other final questions, or we wind it down here? Any more? Lightning round. No, that's not true. Microsoft does not put bloatware to make money on it. That is, Microsoft makes tons of money in licensing. Bloatware is just some bad decision making. It would not cut into their profitability. Matter of fact, most of their money now comes from all their Office subscriptions. So, what does Tom think of ARM Windows PC? I wouldn't use it, but I don't know. I think ARM processors are great. There's a lot of cool use cases for them, but yeah. Oh, for these latest queues, time of stream, it feels like they're reading Reddit. Maybe. Yeah, Microsoft licensing for the Office 365 licensing is where they really get it. ARM is not a desktop. That's your opinion. You can use ARM on the desktop. It's not fast. You can use a Raspberry Pi and call it a desktop. Not a great desktop. I don't know that Windows on ARM is a solution, no. So I'm not. There's nothing about it that makes me go, "That's the future." I don't know. ARM itself as a platform is good, but Windows on ARM, I don't know. That's less so. Yes, I think Netgate SG1100 is great for home. I will definitely see that. ARM with Linux, yeah, you may want to be running something like XFCE for, like, if you were to run a Raspberry Pi. There are limitations when it comes to how much video you can get on there. And as a matter of fact, so much of our work is done in the browsers now. The browsers only work so fast on ARM. So one more limitation you're going to run into. No, I would say that Raspberry Pi runs VMware ESXi, so it's not a weak processor. Runs it and runs it well are two different things. I don't think that's the most efficient use of a Raspberry Pi, running it as a hypervisor. It's more a better use case to say something like Docker. Containerization has less overhead than virtualization. I don't think virtualization, I mean, cool, it can do it, but virtualization adds a lot more overhead. Yeah. So Jay Learn Linux TV has some videos on talking about Raspberry Pi clusters. There's a few people running things like Kubernetes on them. So there's definitely ways you can cluster them together and take better advantage of the hardware over trying to build them in with a ESXi. Yeah, Raspberry Pi 4 walks ESXi, not runs ESXi. There we go. I'm not saying there's no reason ever to run virtualization on there. I think it's cool that they're doing it. It once they have software for it, maybe they will start building faster and faster ARM processors that take advantage of it better, and there may be some use cases for it. But yeah. The Pi server blades. Yeah, that's kind of novel too. I don't have a use case for them, but it doesn't mean I didn't look at it and said, that's neat. Yeah. Jeff Geerling definitely has some great Pi videos as well. He really dove deep on a whole series of Pi videos. So, and one of the cool things about when you build a redundant Pi cluster is if you have a task that you need some resiliency for, you can have a series of them to build resiliency by having a application distributed across them with some type of failover schedule in case any Raspberry Pi goes bad. So there are some fault tolerance methodologies that you can use with Raspberry Pis that, that may be some good use cases for it. 66 likes and 150 users. Smash the like button before you go. Oh, BOS. BOS was really cool. That was I loved BOS when it came out. It's been forever since I've looked it up. I don't think it's in Wikipedia. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, BEOS is an operating system for personal computers developed by B Inc. in 1990. So yeah, it was first written on the B-Box hardware. So it's really cool. But when did it finally die? Oh, November 2001. So it had a 6-year run. PowerPC. This is when I started messing with it, was in the 90s when they released an x86 version. But yeah, it is lost to history now. It was a failed idea. Bob OS. Oh, AIX too. Yeah, AIX is still around. Oh yeah, Beowulf clusters. Man, that brings back memories. That was from a while ago. Ah. Oh, that's right. BOS is not dead because now they have Haiku. Right. I don't know if Lindows is still active. There's a few projects around. What was the other one? There's that one project that tries to emulate a lot of the Windows stuff. If they get big enough, Microsoft will make sure they don't exist. I used to be an AIX admin, so. Yeah, the days of AIX. I'm happy I'm not. I mean, there was always some quirkiness. Probably because the last time I used AIX was in 2004, so some of that information has fallen on my head. Now I'm yawning towards the end of the day here. Yeah, I get here at like 7 a.m., so the day is long. I wake up at 5. I'm here at 7. That's the other reason I didn't want to start the live stream at 6. Nonetheless, I think we covered as many questions as possible. So, I mean, I can always just sit here forever, but eventually I will fall asleep or I have to do something. Because I do have a couple things done. I have a few messages I got to reply to. And at least one person wants a meeting probably. They message me. I know what they need. So, fun stuff to talk to, though. One of our clients. Let's see. Sun Enterprise Servers. Live stream before coffee. Ever run a VM for a QuickBooks server or on Synology? You have a lot of clients that would be ideal for. You need to have a really fast Synology. It's not that you can't do it. We've built Windows as a VM on there, but QuickBooks requirements are stupidly high. So you really need some fast hardware to run that good. So it's something you absolutely, sure, you can run VMs on Synology with Windows, but you better get a fast Synology because that is a real challenge. QuickBooks is just stupidly big. It's not well written, so it uses way more resources than I think it should. Ale Jeffcoat, thank you very much for the $10. That is greatly appreciated. ClearOS looks interesting. I don't have a use case for it, so I'm not going to test it or anything like that. How many people would stay here if I slept on my desk? Can I have one really long live stream of me sleeping on my desk? Didn't HP buy ClearOS? Is that the one HP bought? Yes. Yeah, HP bought them, which makes me even less interested in them. Matter of fact, do they still have a community edition, or I don't even know. Download ClearOS. Let's see. Community. Okay, they still have the community edition. Intended production realized. Sir, clear editions. It's been around. I don't really have a use case for it. It's novel, but not something I plan to use. All right, back to this. I'm easy to distract. Let's see. Awesome. Glad to hear you get your VPN working. And I think that's it. I am out of here. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for hitting the like button. I don't know what else that is. Ever tried floppies? Yeah. Anything on floppy, man. It brings back memories, right? But yeah, one of these days maybe I'll dive down some talking about old tech, because I think it's fun to talk about it, and maybe I'll reach out to one of the other YouTubers that focuses on old tech. I always find them really interesting. I'm a big fan of the 8-bit guy. I do, like understanding all these fundamentals that come from the knowledge with the old tech and bringing them forward. So that's always some fun stuff to talk about. I do not collect old tech though. That is not something I do. Recommend site for besides eBay for server equipment? Tech Supply Direct. Tech Supply Direct is where we get a lot of used Dell servers from. You're going to pay more from them, but they test them. So if you want cheap, you go eBay. If you want quality and testing and everything else and vetting of the product, you buy them from someone like Tech Supply Direct. We do have an offer code down below for Tech Supply Direct. So do you have any really old network equipment? No, we get rid of it all. We do not keep old junk around here as much as possible. I like to get things out of here. I'm not a junk collector. I know a lot of people are. I am far from it. When we see old network equipment we're pulling out, it goes right to the recycling. Yeah, the recyclers will stick it on eBay, and there's secondary markets for it, so you can always find it, but it's not my market. I don't like dealing with it. We just get rid of stuff. So, all right. Thank you very much. And hit me up in the forums if you want. Twitter in the forums is one of the easiest ways for people to just want to, ask me a question. I do not do tech support over Twitter. So if you have some problem with your VPN or something, Twitter is the place I will probably not answer you. But if you say, hey, Tom, I just want to say hi, whatever, I don't mind. And sometimes people have questions, and I say hello to them, and that's perfectly fine. So, all right. Thank you very much.